I'm finally onto the rear of the vehicle. The damage here is probably just as bad as it was at the front. It's hard to say, but the boot floor, of course, is beyond salvage. It's even these supports are rusted back, as well as the floor of the boot. The areas around the rear guard here on the inside, they're all gone. Same on this side. The panels on the, just tip this up, panels on either side here are rusted in the front end there, and a little bit in the bottom towards where the boot welds on. I'll try and salvage these. To get the boot, of course, I've got to take these off anyway, so that's got to be done. Inner guard here is toast at the rear end and at various points along its length there, so I've got to work on that, repair that. Obviously the rear wing, that's got to be done, particularly at the front end. Now, also what I've found after cleaning all this metal up, I don't know what you call this panel, I'll call it the rear bulkhead, no, the top of the bulkhead. It's rusted off, just rusted off along there, so that's got to be replaced. To replace that, what I'm probably going to do is to cut into this panel here, which is, I'll call that an inner guard panel, so I can get access to be able to repair this. So probably have to cut somewhere up here. I'll work that out before I start on this. So just to say, remove part of that, repair this, and then repair the damage I've done by cutting an access path through there. So that's got to be done. The other side is not damaged, so we can turn these lights around. That's not damaged in there, so that's fine. I'd say just water's come in through the hatch or something on this side and sat there and rusted it through, but anyway, doesn't matter. It's got to be repaired, so I'll start with this. Once I've got that done, then I'll take these side panels out, the rear bits at the rear of the wheel arch. Take those out, which will give me access to this panel. Now, I've purchased a replacement for that, so I won't be repairing that, I'll just be replacing that. But once I get that off, I'll look at what I may have to do in the other panels at the rear there. So there's a couple of dents here, dent puller things. I'd like to be able to get behind that panel, but I'll see how I go. Still got a bit of rust here to clean up. I haven't put a vinegar wrap on that. So there's a few bits I've still got to clean up. But before I do that, as I say, I'll be working on this to resolve that issue first before I move on to the others. I know I said I'm going to work on the inside of the bulkhead first at the rear, but to be able to get into that, just drop that down, into there, I've decided I need to get the floor out so I can actually stand in there and work a lot easier. It's a bit hard to sort of reach in over the side of the hatch or in perhaps through the side window to do the repairs there, so I figure it'd be a lot easier if I pull this out and I can stand inside. So hence I've decided to start pulling panels off. Now I was just going to hack that out, but what I've decided to do instead of that is to start unpicking the panels. Lift this up. Start unpicking the panels that are actually welded to it, and obviously these pieces on the side here have to come off because it's a lap joint there. That lap goes over the boot floor, so I need to get this off and out of the way before I address the boot section itself. Now I've just been splitting the welds. Painful process as usual. I've managed to get it all off along there. I'm just struggling a bit with this one, and I'm using my usual method, my special weld splitter, stainless steel. It's been able to pop some of them, but others, because I haven't drilled precise enough, I'm actually having to use a hacksaw in between just to nip off the bits that are still stuck. That seems to be working, but it's just a slow process. Not sure how this end was welded on, or if it even was welded on. There's a couple of big weld marks here. They're not spot welds. If anything, they look like, or maybe, no, they're pronounced. They're not recessed like a spot weld normally is. So whether it's a plug weld and just hasn't been finished off properly, that wouldn't surprise me either, seeing the way welds are finished. And then just look at this one here. Now I assume, and I'll look at some diagrams of this panel, I assume this panel goes up and over there, and maybe that's just welded over the top, maybe a lap. As I say, the weld's not finished up very well, rough as guts. Not sure what these rivets are for, but can't tell at this stage. But I've still got to somehow undo that without damaging this too much, this panel. But it's coming along slowly. But yes, I've decided to pull certainly these pieces off on the other side. They've got to come off anyway to repair them. But I'll get this one off, and then I'll see if I can start tackling either the other side, or maybe I will decide just to hack enough room to stand inside there. Now this area here, what I did was grind back the weld and basically guessed where the actual panel went, and then with a cutting disc cut through the weld around the shape of that. So I wasn't sure how high that was, but I took a guess, and like have it, I got the right area. These rivets, I suspect, are just there to position the panel. And if someone knows something to the contrary, if they could just let me know. But once you drill those out, this just pops out. The areas along here, I'm not sure whether this was spot welded. I'll just tip it up a bit. A couple of apart from a couple of welds I could see, which were actually protruding, not like spot welds. I suspected perhaps plug welds. Others I've found were actually smoothed off. You couldn't see them at all. You can't feel them. But what I've done to highlight where they are is to use the splitting knife, tap it in behind until it reaches resistance, and when it meets resistance the impression of the weld can be found, and then I centre punch those. So I'm only doing a couple at a time, so I'll split these two, or drill them and split them, and then I'll try and find one down here. I can't find it with my finger, but if I use this to split, it puts a little fold there so I can do them. So anyway, still going. This has taken 2 hours just to go from basically there to there, but slow process, but you eventually get there. I don't know whether this can be picked up by the video, but I've encountered a little problem getting this panel off. There were welds certainly along this area here that I've found. I've got all those. But what I didn't suspect is the panel is actually brazed. It's a bit hard to look, and I'll get that. Brazed along the bottom here. It's brazed from there down to there, and also along here. So part of the boot floor is also brazed on. I suspect access problems for welding, but now it gives a problem for me to work out how I'm going to actually take that out. I mean, there's a few options. I could get the oxy in, heat the brass up and hopefully get it soft enough to pull it off. I could perhaps get a saw in there and cut it, or take the easier way out and just cut a section off the panel and then grind it. That's probably the easiest way. Anyway, it's one of those things when you encounter a problem, go away and think about it. And it's lunchtime anyway, so I'll pack that in and I'll think about what I'll do. I'm tending to take the easiest option and just reposition the torch and cut the bottom end of that panel off, just the corner where it's brazed on. I mean, I've got to do repairs to the panel anyway, so one more repair won't hurt. So I'm tending to think that's what I'll do, but that's all right, go away and think about it first. I finally got this panel off. I did decide just to cut this corner out, so it'll save me a lot of mucking around, and I'll grind that off. I'm quite pleased with how this has come out, because it's given me a lot of access that I didn't have before. I can get behind this panel here. There's a few minor dents in this that need to be taken out, and I can get a fair way up into here, so it's looking good for repairing those dents on the other side as well. This piece here, I finally found out what the rivets were for. It may well assist with positioning the panel, but I assume what's happened is that you weld the panel on first, this piece here comes in after, so it's just held in a bit by the remains of the rivet there, and it enables a rubber seal to go in there. So I've actually, discovered what that's for. The condition of this panel, won't know the full extent of things until I've put some vinegar on it and stripped it back to bare metal, but hopefully that's repairable. And what I now need to do is to go to the other side. At the moment I've got the vinegar wrap on that as well. When that's done in a few days' time, I'll start taking that panel off, and then I'll continue until I get this boot section off. So all in all, it's not looking too bad. As I say, slowly progressing, but as with all things, if you take your time, it actually ends out better in the long run, because if you rush at something like this, you're liable to damage the panels you want to keep. And I certainly don't want to do that. I mean, you do damage some things when you take them off. Things are rippled a bit, but they're not too bad and they can be rectified. Now, I know I've talked about splitting spot welds before, but I don't think I've actually filmed the process. Well, filmed part of the process anyway. So I thought I'd do that just to show what's involved. Now, initially I used to use these special spot weld drills. I mean, they work well. They tend to blunt out, and I actually don't know how to sharpen them, so that proved to be a bit of a failure. So what I've done, I just use standard drills. First of all, I drill a pilot in the centre of the spot weld, in this case underneath here. Once I've done a few of those, and I do a little string of them, I've already undone it from there to there, but I'll now work from about there to here. And what I do is that I progressively increase the size of the drill. So the first drill I'll use is this one. Not too sure what the size is, but it's about the same size as a little bit bigger than that, which is probably 6mm. I reshape the drill bit so I make it more of a flat cutting edge rather than a tapered cutting edge. If it doesn't split with that, I'll then go up a size, just with a standard drill. Once again, I reshape the top so it's not as sharp, so it basically cuts a flat hole. So what I'll do is I'll just drill a few pilot holes, and as I say, I'll show you how it's done just for a short stretch here. The reason I went back and drilled it again with the smaller drill, you'll find that you've actually got to get the small drill to cut through one side of the joint. If it doesn't, because the larger cutting drill has got a flattened head, it won't cut in enough. So it'll only cut to the depth of the pilot drill. So hopefully that's about as much as I can get with the first drill. If need be, if they don't split, I'll have to use a slightly larger drill. But what I'll do now, I'll just pause the video while I turn that compressor off in case it starts up again, otherwise you won't hear anything I say. So I'll just pause the video. Okay, now I mentioned I use a stainless steel knife to split. You can use a commercial tool, which I have here, which is this one. But the reason I don't use this is because of the thickness of it. Now, it's considerably thicker. It will certainly split, but what it tends to do is that when you force that between the joint, it actually deforms the metal quite a lot, whereas using the thin knife doesn't cause as much damage. So that's why I use the knife. Now I'll start trying to split that and see if I can get it to go. Let's get a hammer. It's a little bit awkward here with the lights on the camera, but I'll see how I go. Simply prise it open. Is not to split with this, it's just to get enough gap to get the knife in. It's a little bit stubborn. If that occurs, what I do then is to get a hacksaw blade in. Now, I'm lucky with this panel, there's enough room behind to put that blade right through. In some places you can't do that. You can use a reciprocating saw, get the blade in and use that, but I shouldn't need that here. That one hasn't. So I've had to cut one. This one's split. And this one's stuck, and there's another one split down here. So it's the luck of the game. Sometimes they'll split apart, other times they won't, and you have to spend a lot more time alternating between a hacksaw and the splitter, but eventually it'll come off. So I've got a few more to go. Actually, I've got quite a few more to go to get the panel off. So I'll just keep going with this. I won't video it, but it's the same thing over and over again. The time is dependent on how much these, or basically how centre you are with the drill, and sometimes that's difficult because the spot weld is right on the outside of the joint, and other times it's right in tight. So it's hit and miss, but it eventually comes off. The car is looking a lot cleaner without all those rusty panels in place. I mean, there's still rust, but not a problem. I've now got access up through the bottom, through the rotisserie, so I can get to the repairs I need to do along here. So that's the next job.